I am honored to introduce to you tonight our keynote speaker, Mr. Greg Coleman.
Greg Coleman, a native of Jacksonville, Florida, attended Raines High School and a graduate of Florida A&M University. He recently retired following a 25-year career as a C-level executive for a Fortune 500 international communications company. He has served on a number of advisory boards and also had the distinction of speaking at the White House on 21st century policing. Greg spent 12 years as a punter in the NFL and earned the name Coffin Corner Coleman for his ability to kick the ball to the corners, pinning the opponent deep near their own goal line, and has the distinction of being the first African-American punter in the NFL. For the last 22 years, he served as the sideline analyst for the Minnesota Vikings radio network. He is a member of the Vikings' 25th and 40th anniversary team, the Florida A&M Football Hall of Fame, the State of Florida Track and Field Hall of Fame, the Bob Hayes Track and Field Hall of Fame, and named to the all-time Black college football team. He is also an ordained minister. More recently, Greg was inducted into the 2021 class of the Black College Football Hall of Fame. He is a professional speaker who inspires leaders and organizations to flip the field and get a leg up on life. With his passion for people and experience of corporate, community, athletics, and ministry, he is one of the most requested speakers each year. Please put your hands together for our keynote speaker, Hall of Famer Greg Coleman.
Oh, come on, you can do better than that. You know, every time I listen to that, I wonder who they are talking about. Because when I started as a little shorty, I was not very confident. Was not very big, was not very fast. And more than anything else, I didn't want anybody hitting on me. Somebody said, well, Greg, why did you become a punter? I got to tell you this quick story. We've heard a lot about journeys. We've heard a lot about new beginnings. We've heard a lot about successes. But I was watching a game between the Baltimore Colts and I can't remember who they were playing. But they were playing at Old Memorial Stadium. And it was cold, like it is here. When I got off the plane here this morning, I started to turn around and get back on that sucker and go back to Florida. But it was muddy, cold, in blood. The coach had on these white uniforms. And I saw this guy get up off the bench, and he walked out on the field, and he stood behind 10 people who were protecting him. I know we'll be done here in a minute. He got the ball, and he kicked in his clean white uniform and walked back to the bench in his clean white uniform. And at a very young age, I think I may have been 8 or 9 years old, I said, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. So at a very young age, I started to formulate goals and see the future and all of those things. But it is a pleasure to be here with you guys tonight. And what an amazing organization. I can't think of a few other things besides my grandbabies that would get me to come from Florida to come up here in this godforsaken cold weather where I spent 44 years. But I finally got smart and moved to Florida. But I'm here to share a few thoughts and encourage a few others to continue to flip the field and make a difference. No, you can't flip the field like I did as a punter. And, you know, I must say that I was pretty darn good at it. But let me tell you something. That journey was long. It was tough. But boy, was it rewarding. And as a little shorty down in Jacksonville, I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of things from my dad. Pops was the first African-American salesperson at J.C. Penney's in the city of Jacksonville. And there were some core values that he taught me that I still relish today. And he said, son, whatever you do, always say please, thank you, and can I help you? With those 3 core values, set me on a path. Because sports was huge in our neighborhood. And I can remember being a part of a Little League football team. We were city champs, the Astro Bees. And if you look closely at that picture, we don't look like we were celebrating being city champs. Because the city champs would always play in the Gator Bowl against the opposing championship team. We get to the Gator Bowl. Coach goes out and we've got our gear, and he comes back in. He said, guys, I got some news for you. And it's not good. He said, yes, we were city champs, but we're not going to be allowed to play in the Gator Bowl because of the color of your skin. Now, to say that to a group of young men that are 12, 13, 14 years old, that could have broken most of us. But the word resilient has been tossed around a lot tonight. And on that group of 32 young men, 4 put on NFL uniforms, 2 put on USFL uniforms, 1 a professional softball player. There were 3 doctors in that group. There were 4 attorneys. 20 out of the 32 went on to college. And you know how we were able to do that? Because of people like you. People like you who gave. Yeah, some gave resources, some gave words. Man, let me tell you something, words are so powerful. That old saying, that old adage, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me, that's a lie from the pit of hell. Because I can remember words that were mentioned and said to me by coaches, by teachers, by mentors, by parents. Words matter. The world, God spoke the world into existence with words. He said, let there, and there was. He said, let there be, and there was. I saw that group of teachers and workers from this organization. Y'all stand up one more time. Get up. All the staff. Carolyn, you too. Now, let me tell you something. This is who we are shining a light on. Because what you are doing, you're charting a course for these young people. And it's a course that they will be able to navigate for the rest of their lives because of the words that come out of your mouth to their ears, and you are part of their history. You are part of their legacy. Yeah, times get tough, but you guys are resilient. That means to be able to adjust and get back on track quickly. We all have to adjust. We all have to adapt. We all have to execute a different game plan. Sports was big in my community. And I wanted to go to the big colleges like some of my other high school teammates. But I had coaches that say to me, Greg, you know, I grew up, let me tell you, if you didn't realize by now, I grew up down in the segregated South, okay? So I had coaches to tell me, Greg, we are just getting our fan base ready to accept the fact that we're going to have a black quarterback, but I damn sure can't have a black kicker. Words. But I used those words to fuel the fire. They continue to give me hope, because hope was the gasoline that fuels your faith. And without faith, you have nothing. I went to Florida A&M University, and I had a coach by the name of Pop Kittles. And Pop was old school. Pop said, well, baby, I was at practice one day, and I was having one heck of a day at practice. I was kicking them 50, 60, 70 yards as far as I wanted them, but I was kicking them right down the middle. Pop said, well, baby, why are you kicking it right to him? I said, well, Pop, well, that's where he's standing. He said, well, hell, baby, make him work for his supper. He said, don't kick it right to him. He said, kick it to the right, kick it to the left. He said, if you do it on a consistent basis, I guarantee you they'll find a place for you at the next level. And I was stupid enough to believe him. Words. Resiliency. They don't come easy. Be careful about what comes out of your mouth. Be careful about who you're speaking to, because the words go in their ear and they rest in their heart, and before you know it, somebody's believing those words. So I continued to kick it to the right and kick it to the left. And they found a place for me in the National Football League. I was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. Didn't work out that year. So I signed with the Cleveland Browns. Had a pretty good year. They fired the coach, but I led the league that preseason. I get a call the Friday before the first game, thinking that I'd made the team. I got this call. They said, Greg, man, the coach wants to see you and bring your playbook. I say, playbook? Heck, I'm a punter, man. I catch the ball, I kick the ball. I don't have a playbook. But being disappointed, I went in and gave him the sheet of paper that I had. And I bounced around and I tried out with different teams over and over and over again. Buffalo, Philadelphia, San Diego, New England. Didn't really want to play for any of those teams. We were still living in Cleveland. We were expecting our first child. Kara was in Eleanor's belly. And let me tell you something. If you talk about motivation, when you need to feed a baby, you get motivated to do some things. So I remember we were in our ninth floor apartment window, and I'm watching a game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Minnesota Vikings. And I go to my ninth floor apartment window, and I'm pretty ticked off right about now. And I'm screaming at God. I open the window and I say, God, where are you? You lied to me. You said that you would give me the desires of my heart. I said, I've been praying, I've been reading, I've been doing everything that you asked me to do. Where are you? I said, I just want to play football. And I want to play football so bad that I'll even play for the Minnesota Vikings. And as God is my witness, I closed the window. The next day, I got a call from the Minnesota Vikings. And I spent the next 10 years punting here for your Minnesota Vikings. Be careful about what you say you'll never do, because God has a funny sense of humor. But you know, there are some lessons that I learned. I had to learn how to overcome obstacles, because in life, you know, you're going to get some things, and things are going to be tough. Life is like a bunch of hurdles. I was a hurdler. And the reason that I love that race, because you get over an obstacle, and then you run like heck in between, and there's another obstacle. Just like what you do at Way to Grow. You overcome obstacles year after year, week after week, with child and family after family, over and over and over again. You talk about resilient. That's what you are. You are the epitome of resilience. So I signed with the Minnesota Vikings, and I was practicing, and Bud Grant would go in every day. I said, golly, here we go again. Nobody wants to really see what I can do. So I remembered a lesson that I learned many, many years ago: when preparation meets opportunity, normally it's going to equal success. I will never look at a garbage can the same again, because the team was practicing on one end of the field, and I went on the other, and I grabbed 3 garbage cans, and I put one on the goal line, one on the 5, and one on the 10, and I took 10 footballs, and I went back to the 50. I put 2 in on the goal line, 1 in on the 5, and 2 on the 10. By that time, practice had stopped, and guys were saying some things that I can't repeat because this is a family audience. But they said, God darn, man, I have never seen anybody do anything like that. You got to have some touch in order to do that. Thus gave me my nickname during my tenure with the Minnesota Vikings, Touch Coleman. People talk about kicking it to the coffin corner, but I put the touch on it and went to the corners. That's what kept me around. My first game was against the Green Bay Packers. I even hate to say that name. And I had a pretty good game. The last punt, it was a close game. Bud Grant came up to me and said, touch, do anything, but don't get it blocked. Hell, you hadn't said nothing to me the whole game, so now you're going to come up and talk to me about don't get it blocked. So what do you think I'm thinking about? Don't get it blocked. I told you words are important, whether they're positive or negative. So I go out. It was 4th and 13. Now remember, we've got Ahmad Rashad, Chuck Foreman, some of the greatest some of the greatest offensive minds and players in the history of the National Football League. Hell, they couldn't gain 13 yards. So what do? I get the ball and I peep up and I look and Fred McNeil misses a block over here. So I take off and I run around the sideline. And I'm humping like crazy. I'm 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and then I got to gain 13 more. So imagine, I had a little horse on the giddy up. And I see the first down mark, and I get to it, and I stretch, and I'm thinking that I got the first down. God, dog it. They stretch that chain out, and I come up about that much short. Thus, me having a conversation with Bud Grant at that last photograph that you saw. I said, what were you thinking? I said, I thought what you told me, do anything but don't get it blocked. And he looks at me with those piercing blue eyes. He said, the next time you run around here, you damn sure better make it. And I did, because fear is a great motivator. I talked about words. I talked about coaches. And even after I was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals and did not make it, my first job as an adult was a high school teacher. Teachers are critical to our society, especially our young people. You're shining a light on those young people who probably living in a lot of dark times, who having some dark times. So the words that you speak, the encouragement that you give them, you're shining a light. Let me tell you something as I wind this thing down. I look at teams, and you are a collection of teams. And teams is nothing more than a group of individuals with different talents and different abilities, but focused on the same common goal. You guys are a team in here. Believe it or not. Okay, everybody count on 3. 1, 2, 3. Golly. I said clap on 3. 1, 2, 3. Some of you are late, some of you are early. That's a 5-yard penalty. One more time, clap. 1, 2, 3. A little bit better. Just a little bit better. But see, my time and tenure with the Vikings, we were a close-knit group. We were so close that you knew what each other had for pregame meal. See, on a team, you can play with each other because you've got on the same jersey, but it's a difference when you play with each other because you're playing for a cause, you're playing for a common goal. And the most successful teams are those who really don't care who get the glory as long as you win the game. I have one of my former teammates here, Tim Baylor. Tim Baylor was the tallest defensive back in the National Football League at 6'7". His ace, his forte was blocking kicks. Tim sacrificed his body. He would run and jump up, and we blocked more kicks in the history of the Minnesota Vikings than any other team in the National Football League, because those like Tim Baylor, teammates like Tim Baylor, sacrificed. You teachers, administrators, you're blocking kicks because you're making sacrifices. The long hours, the difficulties when some of your young people don't get it just right. But you don't quit, you don't give up on them. See, let me tell you something. You are flipping the field even though you can't punt 5 yards. You're flipping the field and making a difference because of the words that come out of your mouth and the deeds that you do. See, nobody thought that those 32 young men many, many years ago, that out of that group of 32 would come 4 who put on NFL uniforms, 2 USFL, professional softball player, 3 doctors, 4 attorneys. That's just one sample size of what can happen when a community comes together and gives and gives and continues to give for the betterment. Because let me tell you something. All of us need a little help. All of us need a little help. You know, I can remember, you may remember it as the Minneapolis Miracle or the Minnesota Miracle against the New Orleans Saints. And I can remember the night before we were in chapel and we were talking about team. We were talking about teamwork. And we were behind with 12 seconds left. Case Keenum goes in the huddle. He says, guys, I'm going to give somebody an opportunity to do something great. All you got to do is do your job. He goes in the huddle. He calls a play, Buffalo right, 7 heaven. He takes the ball, drops back. The offensive line does their job. The back picks up the blitzes. The receivers run their routes. He throws the ball. Stephon Diggs goes up, makes the catch, spins around on one hand. What happens? Some of you have played the game spin the bottle or spin the stick or something like that. When you spin around, you get dizzy. A lot of times you don't know which way to go. But sometimes all you need is somebody to point you in the right direction. And the rest is history. Let me do this as we wind down. You have an opportunity to continue to make this community shine, because of these babies in this group could be a Nobel Peace Prize recipient. Could be another Michael Jordan, could be another Nelson Mandela, could be another Oprah Winfrey. In there could be another Greg Coleman. The possibilities are endless as long as we come together as a team, as long as we continue to be resilient people. Are we living in a perfect society? Absolutely not. But we're the best society that we have. And you are the best of this society because you make a difference. What Bob did a few minutes ago, and when you raised your number, you flipped the field and gave these young people a leg up on life. You're making a difference. And for that, you are the best of the best. Let me close with this. It's a poem about being the best. To be the best is my quest. Athletes come and athletes go, but there's something very special about being a pro. To be the best is my quest. On and on towards this goal I'll strive, while keeping my championship hopes alive. And let us not forget the day-to-day concentration, for it'll help make us the best in the nation. To be the best is my quest. Some may just be happy to make the squad, but I'll never be satisfied until I get that Super Bowl wad. And so much happiness I know it will bring, the thrill of wearing a Super Bowl ring. To be the best is my quest. Everything needed I cannot mention, but I hope the things that I've said is not beyond your retention. So be the best, flip the field, and make a difference. Thank you, and God bless you.